Hello and welcome once again to the How Long to Beat podcast. I'm Rick, joined by Alex and Paula. It's 5 degrees here and I'm in a vest. What? So, this week, I don't know why I threw that out there. That's just like useless trivia.
Is that what you guys call tank tops there? Vests?
Vest. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, the British
Tank top is like at least one syllable too many.
Fair.
It's a vest.
Fair.
So, this week, we are going to talk about what we've been retired and been playing. We're going to squeeze a topic and a user question in, both centered around the ideas of adaptations of video games into other mediums. And then we're going to finish off, as always, with your favorite, the one, the only.
How long to beat the game?
See, I tried to catch you out and you both nailed it. So, sweet.
We're on to your tricks.
Yeah, you don't even need to trick us. We're gonna fuck up by ourselves eventually.
Yeah, I can't think of a good segue. Paula, tell us about Cupid Parasite.
Ooh.
Okay, so I completed Cupid Parasite. I got like every single CG, every ending. Oh my god, this game is amazing. It has to be one of my favorite Otome games, really. And it is very different in more than one way, like to the others I've played so far, because first of all, it is a rom-com. And most of the other games have like more serious or dark undertones to them. And also, this game is so stupid. It doesn't take itself seriously at all, and I love it for it, because in other games, like they do like silly stuff, but they have a very strange plot, but it doesn't really work in a serious manner. But this one was like, okay, we're gonna do something stupid, and we're not gonna take it seriously, and it works completely, and I love it. Also, like the whole cast of characters, it has to be like one of the first times that I don't really have any major issues with any of the characters, like at all. And I still have a very hard time picking favorites. And Lynette, the protagonist, it is like a 10 out of 10. She's amazing as a protagonist. She really keeps like the plot rolling. And every single time she gets mad at the Parasite 5's antics, it's just beautiful. And the way they play the thing that she's like you could say she's like the 7th Parasite, because she's the Cupid Parasite, but because like she is so good at matchmaking, but at the same time she's so fucking dense when it comes to herself, like stupidly so, at the point that one of the parasites is a parasite because of her. It was very well done, and not a single joke like overstayed its welcome. And the story itself didn't overstay its welcome either, because there are times where they try to milk one particular point and they go like way too long on that point, and then it's like, why do we care about this point? But the pacing on this game was really good. I would like to recommend it to everyone, but I know it's not for everyone because of, I guess, the more mature nature of some of the jokes, or maybe like some of the scenes that maybe more than some want to handle in their visual novels. But for anyone who doesn't care, I guess, or that is looking for like a rom-com kind of thing on their gaming career, I don't know, I would wholeheartedly recommend this one. Just expect absolute insanity. Also, the game is one on the longer side, but maybe it was my fault because I didn't realize you could skip to the next choice.
You didn't code realize you could escape to the next choice.
I didn't know, and my time is around 50 hours, but it would have been like, I don't know, 45 hours maybe if I knew that beforehand.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So, for like the uninitiated, you mentioned CGs.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Okay, so a CG is like a like a picture, like when you get like a special picture of the scene that's going on, that's what we call a CG.
Oh, that's like
So-
in like Ash and Hawk when they're all like kissy kissy and you get a special image. Is that what you?
Yeah.
Yeah, those
When-
are special images, and those are what we call CGs.
When the protagonist does a clumsy fall over and like one of the males catches them in her arms, and it's like super like romanticized, and then it fades in from white, and they're just there, and it's all the screen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that full
Nice.
screen image is what we call a CG. And the ones here are amazing.
Cool.
More ways than one, because I already like talk a lot about my how much I love this artist in particular because of how good her art is and how it fits like the tone of the game. And it also was the same artist of Café Enchanté, and I also adore the art of Café Enchanté and the character design. So like the art is super good, like miles better than a lot of the other visual novels out there. I would put it up there with Pio Fiore, God Realize, and obviously Café Enchanté because it's of the same artist. And those are like the trifecta, I guess, of beautiful art in Otome games, those three artists. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. The final route was hilarious. Like this one character can carry like the comedy of the route like 80% of the time, which is amazing. And I'm gonna say how the plot resolved itself was fitting in the whole absurdity of this whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, how about Alex? Do you want to talk about your completions here, because you have a lot of them?
Yeah,
Actually, there are two that I'm like, how?
It's two that you're playing that I beat. So
yeah,
they're not actually super long.
Care to explain?
So first off, I beat Death's Door, which you're not currently playing, but Death's Door, you know, it's really like it's good. It is a good game. It's just not like it didn't blow me away, I guess, you know, like it's very competent, but I think that's kind of where I put like it's a really excellent 8 game, you know, like it's good. It's not quite amazing. You finish it and you're like, okay, that was fun.
And I feel like Metroidvanias are getting to this, or rather roguelikes are getting to the same point that Metroidvanias are, where like competent and good and like a solid 7 to 8 just isn't enough really to recommend them at this point. And I felt that sort of looking at pre-release for Death's Door.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I still would recommend this because like I did have fun, because it's short. I think that's why.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I beat it in, I pull up my time in a second here, but it was like 10 or 11 hours or something that it took me to beat it, which for me, that's like, okay, this was really like, you know, a few sessions of gaming in order to actually get this completion done. And so that kind of like bumps it up a little higher for me. Oh, actually, it was 9 hours and 50 minutes for me. So like really, that's why
it's not bad for a roguelike.
Well, it's not a roguelike. This isn't a roguelike.
Rather.
Is it not? It's not. It's none of those. No. It's a Zelda game basically. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like got a couple dungeons. Yeah. No, this isn't. Now you are gonna die a lot. You know, and I hate doing these comparisons because I know it's always fucking compared to this. But the reality is that like Dark Souls has made the roll, dodge, die quickly thing its thing, right? And that's basically what this is in a zoomed out perspective with Zelda-esque puzzling and slight Metroidvania styling kind of progression to it, where you get items that can let you go explore more. It's got an interesting story that I liked. The bosses are adorable, but also ultimately come down to just pattern recognition. And there's not a lot of like health and like magic upgrades. I got all of them. There's really not many. And so I managed to beat the final boss. Wasn't even really that hard, but like it's really just because, I don't know, maybe I'm used to this kind of patterny recognition games where I'm just like, okay, well, he's going to do this and then he's going to do that. And I just have to go dodge, good. So yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, an 8 out of 10 game. A good game. but there's something about it. Do you know what I mean? There's just something that I'm like, it's missing something for me that would push it over the edge to be like, you gotta play this. Yeah. Art style's adorable. Really cute.
And from a game to not a game.
Yes. So I also beat There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension for the PC. This game's really funny. It is a little like, there are points where I was like, okay, let's fucking move along here a little bit. Because I think this came from a small concept, like a 15-minute or so concept, and then turned it into this much bigger game, which still isn't very long. It's a couple hours long. And it's a point-and-click adventure game. It has an excellent hint system. I don't think I ever had to actually look up anything outside of it, because some of the things you have to do are a little like, the fuck am I supposed to do here? So you're like, but it's not that bad. Like in terms of point and clicks, I would say it's much better than some of the worst offenders, where you have to do a puzzle that's really sort of silly, and it'll comment on that sometimes. And, it's a very meta game, and I just liked it. It's just it's fun. But like I said last time, do not play this on the Switch. Not because I think it's bad on the Switch. It's just, this is clearly meant to be played on your computer, and it will easily run on your computer. And it's also cheaper on PC, so just get it on your PC. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that one. Very funny voice acting in it. And really does actually sweep you up in its story pretty well, I have to say. Like sometimes you think how invested am I going to get in this? And you're like, I got pretty invested. I also beat Picross, Lord of the Nazarick. So I hit the credits. I did all of the memories and all the color Picross. I didn't do all the clip Picross, because clip Picross is where you're making a bigger picture out of smaller Picross puzzles. And that has always felt like a fucking, fine, you want more fucking Picross here. It's always felt like that a little bit, because they're not really puzzles, right? You're just filling out a section. So you're not really revealing an interesting image. You're just fill in. Okay, got it. And just move on to the next one. It's always felt tedious to me. So I was like, no, I'm not fucking doing that. But I did get all the memories and stuff. If you like Overlord, I bet this is cool. If you only like Picross, it's also cool. But if you like both, it's probably great. So I would say as someone
especially because you're revealing the Overlord stuff, but also on the clip Picross, it's actually entertaining because it's I got this section. Okay, that looks like a cave. Which character could that be? And you start trying to guess what is going on in the picture beforehand.
I mean, I liked the art, looking at, because you unlock galleries and stuff and memories and things, and I liked looking at it. I was like, I don't really know what this is, but it's cool art, It's just, it's just an anime, and I'm like, that looks neat. So anyway, I beat that. I've actually gone back, and I also just beat, I didn't add it on my list, but I just beat the Picross S4 color Picross, because I was like, I also want to do that. So Picross has sunk me in hard. Also, as a note, I have a very long 3-hour online class in the mornings, and Picross is really good for that. You're just sitting there. You can't see it. They make me leave my camera on, but you can't fucking see my hands. So I'm just playing Picross. And I'm like, yeah, I'm listening, dude, whatever. So anyway, that's my life.
Tut.
And the last one, I beat Aviary Attorney, which last week I said I would play when it went on sale. And lo and behold, the next goddamn day it went on sale. So the lowest sale it's been on ever. So I was like, there you go. I'm going to preface, because I am going to critique this game a little bit, but I want to preface it with a couple things. One, it is a great game. Two, it's by a small studio. Very small. It's basically a couple people, which means that while, of course, it takes inspiration from Ace Attorney, there is no way in hell it could ever come close to them, because of the fact that that is a huge team that works on Ace Attorney. Thirdly, I've played every goddamn Ace Attorney game out there, so I'm a little biased towards Ace Attorney. I love it. So anyway, that's my caveats. But what I'll say about this game, without going into spoilers or anything, it's good. Its writing is great. Its art is excellent. I like the music a lot as well. I also like the setting. When I saw that it was set in 1848 France in January, I was like, I fucking know where we're going. I'm like, I know this period of time in history. And so I'm a bit of a history buff, and I'm like, I know exactly what's about to go down. So that was really exciting, and I like what they did with it. I thought it was really clever and really intelligent. I think the 3 endings is a dumb idea. I don't think it's very intriguing, and it actually detracts from. So when you think about it, it's like what ends up happening is that you have 3 acts, and then you have a 4th act split into 3 possibilities. But really,
then you have multiple endings because
yes, there's multiple endings.
I was close to getting one, and I think I actually PM'd Rick because before you started playing the game, it's like, if this game has multiple endings, I'm gonna get them all because like
Which isn't that
I can
hard.
see it probably is, but I just gotta say I don't think I'm getting towards the good one here.
Oh, okay. I got the good end in mind. That's fair. I think I might know what happened in yours then. But yeah, I got the good end. Because I started to see, I think, like what was going on. Anyway, what ends up happening is that your final act is actually kind of a letdown in some ways. I like it, but ultimately, gameplay wise, it feels a little cheap compared to the great stuff that they were doing earlier. And I think that's at the fault of the multiple endings. Instead of focusing on one big kind of payoff for the story they've been building, they have to kind of split it into 3, of which one is satisfying, the others are less so, and even satisfying at an edge. So anyway, that's something. It's an interesting experiment, and it was kind of cool to see that. And what's actually interesting is that this game, it's really similar to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and some of the ideas. And I thought that was kind of neat, and because I feel like they were kind of simultaneously happening. I'm not sure.
I think Aviary Attorney predates it by like a year or 2.
Oh, but they would be in production. Do you know what I mean? Like they're like
I say the point.
Yeah. So that's why I find that really fascinating, because Aviary Attorney clearly wouldn't have come out like neither of them could have really been influenced by each other.
Parallel thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and so that I thought was really neat. I think the day it works on this day structure where like you're going through days. I think that's arbitrary and ultimately wasn't that much fun. Like it was kind of like I was like, I love investigating, and so like kind of making me choose like an optimal path of investigation really only mattered in like one of the cases, which is kind of why I was like, just let me investigate. That's kind of what these are about. But anyway, interesting idea and concept. So I think that's kind of my sort of like quibbles with that. But again, like I want to be really clear. I loved this game. This was great. But it's like just thinking about it in like a more granular, like kind of gameplay wise, those are the things where I was like, those were really interesting experiments, and I'm glad they tried them, especially because it's a short game. It's like I feel like this is the perfect venue to try out this kind of different take on it. But ultimately, I don't think they pay off in ways that maybe they were hoping they would. But yeah, everyone should play it, I think, because it's really, it's very funny. Like there's some like very, very good jokes. And fun fact for French, the first guy who's killed is Grenouille, and that's like a pun on grenouille, which is French for frog. So I love it. Like all their names are like animal puns. So, yeah, there you go. So some of them you might be like, I don't get it. And it's like, oh, it's because they're using the French word for the name instead of like the English one. But good stuff. Good stuff. Good shit. And if you liked this one, Rick, you might like the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, because they're like, honestly, as I was playing it, I was like, oh yeah, this is like a short version of that game in some ways, especially with the politics and like dealing with grander concepts. And I have to say, like the logic in this one is as insane as in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Yep.
Well, listen, never say never.
Yeah.
But like it's so low.
The real question is,
is
it a ladder or a step ladder?
Oh, in this. Wait, what? I'm missing.
Did you find the joke? Wait, you didn't find the step ladder joke in this game?
I might not have. I might not have gone to that one. What part was that in? Because you can miss stuff.
Yeah, you can miss stuff. It is on chapter 1. You have to enter a house in the not legal way.
No, yes, never mind. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. I actually really liked the red herring thing. Did you pursue the red herring? You get a little medal for pursuing it.
But they told me it was stupid.
I just said, I don't care, and went for it. It was very fun.
I have to pursue it next time.
Yeah. If you know French history as well, I think you'll get more out of this game too, because it really does adhere to like that period of time. Like it's like very much playing with a real thing that happened and with real players and real names. There's one particular name they dropped that I was like, see what you're doing there.
But it's super accessible irrespective.
Oh yes, like I mean that's just flavor, you know what I mean? Like it's like it's not something that you like require, but like it'd be worth looking a little bit up about that time period while you're playing, because you'll just get like an even nicer understanding. Anyway, that's Aviary Attorney. Highly recommend it. I hope more people try and do things with Ace Attorney style, but I also recognize that like this is a testament to how difficult these games are to make, because here's a small team who's able to make this kind of short 4-something hour game, and you're like Ace Attorney games are upwards of like 40 hours, and it's like, how the shit do they do that, you know? Like my god,
that's misery.
and like to spread out you know, mystery across that long of a game like that, I don't know, playing this made me appreciate it even more. Like I just anyway, that's it. Rick, tell us all about what you beaten.
Which is my one completion this week was Grimm's Hollow, the somewhat controversial Itchmas game. I adore this. I had a wonderful time playing this game. I actually found that the combat was less janky the further I got in. Weirdly. So for anyone who didn't sort of follow along with Itchmas and participate, Grimm's Hollow is a short, sort of around about 3 hour long RPG maker game. It's a very sort of tightly wound RPG experience. The combat is single protagonist, but it's very, very akin to the Super Mario RPG games like Superstar Saga, Bowser's Inside, that kind of thing, where there's timing-based attacks and defensive maneuvers. It's like the one timing thing for everything, but it really sort of brings you into it. It's all on an active time system, which I think works slightly better for that because the battles do feel very frenetic. It has a very well-pitched skill tree that ties into the story and is sort of well-pitched for the length of the experience. The game actually tells a really compelling narrative. I found myself very drawn to that side of things. There's a beautiful sort of black and purple aesthetic. The game looks better than it has any right to for an RPG Maker sort of free experience. It has a couple of little CGs. It's really well presented throughout. I just had a wonderful time with it. I don't think there are enough short, like classic RPG experiences. I think the RPG could lend itself much better to a sort of 3 to 8 hour miniature experience if it was pitched that way. To tell a tighter narrative, to have a little bit more scope to work things around that way. You know, limit yourself to a few dungeons. There doesn't need to be a grind. You can pitch the battles out a little bit more conservatively and be a bit smarter about it and tie things in a more cohesive manner. And this game is a testament to how you can do that and do that well and do that right. I didn't really see much of the discourse about why people didn't get on with this. My best guess is that sort of in between shorter narrative experiences, this sort of 3 hour RPG, especially sort of towards the back end when people were trying to catch up, felt like too much. Maybe people didn't give it a proper fair shake. That's my best guess at it. I would implore anyone who looked at this and passed on it, or took a swing at it and it didn't sort of land immediately, give it a second shot. It really is well worth a play. Did either of you play this? I feel like you played it briefly, Alex. I think you may have skipped it, Paula.
Mine genuinely did not work.
I skipped it.
Like a lot of the gameplay elements just wouldn't work. Like I would hit things and they weren't going. It would like delay, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like so. Anyway, I had no interest. I was like, I got limited time, not fucking with this. So I'm really glad.
When you get your new rig,
there you go.
Give it a go.
Yeah, I didn't
First
play
game
because,
on like the new Alienware laptop is a fucking
Grimm's Hollow through it.
Oh my god.
Oh man, and a game you definitely won't be playing on the new rig, Alex. Tell us about your 1 hour collective one retirement this week.
Oh sure. Well then, yes, the only retirement that was a really sad retirement for me actually, because I really wanted to play this, which was Secret Little Haven. But so to give you context, this is like it's one of those like faux computer games where you're like exploring a narrative and you're like on this computer, and it's a trans story essentially. So yeah, young individual kind of exploring and understanding their identity online. But I got this through the big, BLM.
The big itch bundle.
Yeah, the huge itch one, and maybe it's an issue with the itch version. I don't know. The Steam one maybe has been updated. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of bugs in this. Like it just didn't really work. So there's this issue where like you open this chat window that's kind of like AIM or Messenger, and you just kind of click, and like they'll offer you options for dialogue, and you just click them, and so you'll read them. But I made the mistake of accidentally like exiting out of that, and then when I opened it, I had to like redo all the conversations. And then at one point when I went to click, so you can like go and find a new one, you add it, and this person will start talking to you, but then they weren't there. So then I exited out of it, and then I opened it again, and now they are there and they're talking, but now some of the other conversations have restarted, but some of them haven't restarted, and I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? Like it just... And then I couldn't get like this event thing to work properly. And then when I did get it to work properly, it also glitched. And like, oh, holy crap. Like so much stuff was just fucking up entirely. And I was like, because it's split into a few days. And then I went online to read. And apparently there's some like elements in it later where you have to mess around with the terminal, because you do some like, it like teaches you how to do some like hacking, I guess, basically. But apparently it's like fucking barely ever works if it does. And I was like, oh, I am not interested in like going to an area that's going to become extremely frustrating and difficult to do. So yeah, I was a little sad about that. I think this could be an interesting thing to watch a quick little playthrough of maybe, because aesthetically it's really, I loved it. It's like all this like kind of pink and like pastel colors, and I think the narrative that I was like listening to, like that I was reading, so like thus far was like really good, and it was really fun to explore that kind of like desktop and look at all these little applications that they had, and like so anyway, like that's the shame, where I was like a really good narrative around like a really rocky some really rocky coding. And so yeah, unfortunately I can't really recommend it because of that. But like I said, maybe the Steam version is better. I don't know. I don't think this is an issue with my computer or anything. Like, looking up people's experiences with it, I got a lot of the same stuff. So yeah. Anyway, if you got it in the itch bundle, maybe don't try it there. Maybe see if you can get it on Steam or something. It's really, really, really cheap. I mean, it was on sale recently for like 3 CAD. So I think usually it's only like 6 CAD or something like that in general. But anyway, that's Secret Little Haven. Sadly retired because of technical issues. Anyway, why don't we move on to what we've been playing? I don't know who wants to go first.
I will
Why don't you
jump
go first?
in.
Yeah. Question mark.
Yeah, I guess. So to be fair, I've had a really hectic week, so almost everything is going to be a name check that I have nothing new to say on. So still playing as follows: The Witcher, PC, Sable for PC, God of War Remastered 3, PS4, It Takes Two for PS4, Deadbolt for Vita, Crimson Shroud for 3DS, all varying degrees of excellent. The one I really want to talk about is Cuphead. And the reason I really want to talk about that is your boy got a Switch, by which I mean I'm borrowing a friend's Switch Lite that he's not using anymore. The one game that he has on his account that I wanted to play before I wipe it and like put my own account on there is Cuphead. This is a game that I've had sat in my wish list on Steam for years and never really got around to. And to be fair, without this nudge, possibly would have never gotten around to, because generally speaking, as much as I love the aesthetic and the idea and all the work that's gone into the animation, boss rush games aren't normally my thing, but this is really good. I think as much, if not more, thought and time and effort has gone into the encounter design, the game feel, the way it's all set up. And that really shines in a game like this, where that sort of die, rinse, repeat sort of situation is so crucial to the game. And, it doesn't stick the landing every time, but 85-90% of the boss phases and bosses are really, really well pitched. The game gives you some, but not too many options in terms of like loadout and how you set your character up. It gives you a few tools, enough to give you some flexibility in your approach, but not too many as to confuse things. It does some interesting things with what it calls the parry mechanic. So what that is when you jump, instead of a double jump on the second press of the button, your character glows pink. And any pink projectile, and occasionally some pink sort of like static object, you can bounce off with a parry. It's something that you're scored on at the end of each boss. It's something that allows you to build up special meter. It also allows you another way of getting past certain projectiles and boss attack patterns. And then really stretch what is quite a simple mechanic in all kinds of different directions to do different things and make the game have a slightly unique feel. That obviously is bolstered by the way the game looks, which is incredible. In a word, I can only imagine what this looks like on like a 1080p or a 4K big display. What I can tell you is on the little 720p Switch Lite screen, the Switch Lite is such a nice little device, by the way. I've played on a regular Switch, and the 4 buttons that they give you in lieu of a D-pad are vile. The D-pad on the Switch Lite is among the best I've ever used.
It's my favorite.
Which is good because those controls are baked in, and as long as the Joy-Cons don't decide to start drifting, like the setup is almost as perfect as you could make it for a system like this. I'm very enamored with it.
And the good news is, first of all, the Switch Lite has like a slight revision to the Joy-Con, that it has like a slightly different model, so it's more drift resistance.
Ooh.
But when it does start to drift, changing the right Joy-Con is actually pretty easy because they made it so it's like with the Vita that they have a sister board there.
Oh, okay. Rather than having to do full-on disassembly and everything else. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's a friend's console, so hopefully I won't have to open it. But nevertheless, on the little Switch Lite screen, it looks amazing. Really, really great. I feel like it's a good length as well for what it is. So I will have this finished in time for next week, and I'll probably gush about it a little bit more then. I have one boss left to do in the regular worlds before I hit like whatever the finale is. Nice. Just a lot of time for this game. It's so well pitched, feels firm but fair. There's very few cheap things in it, which is commendable for a game that is a boss rush, and ostensibly boss rushes are pattern recognition, certain sort of cheap things. Very rarely do you get the sense that this is being cheap and cheating you as a player out of things. And it still somehow manages to give you enough variety for it to all work within that. You do have sort of the odd run and gun section, but ostensibly it's almost entirely boss battles. Have either of you played this one?
No, it's been on my list for a long time, but
it is on my list too.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same as I was then. Yeah,
I actually have immediate access to it because my boyfriend has it, and we share Steam libraries. So I can, in theory, play it, but I'm playing other things from his library right now.
Oh, I know that feeling. And just in terms of what I'll do with the Switch, so Box Boy and Box Girl is next on the list. Once I've beaten Cuphead and wiped it, I'm being lent a copy of Breath of the Wild, which I'm very, very excited about. I have also been lent a copy of Astral Chain, which I'm equally excited about. And I'm going to have a copy of Shin Megami Tensei 5 ordered very, very soon, much to the surprise of absolutely nobody who listens to this podcast on the regular. But yeah, that's basically me. Cuphead and Grimm's Hollow are all I've played this week. So that's as updated as we can possibly be. Paula? Question mark?
Yeah, Paula, tell us what you played.
So I've been playing Animal Crossing New Horizons to the surprise of no one. I am remodeling part of my island, and I have like a little spot resembling a place in Olympia Soares to the surprise of absolutely no one. And last Saturday there was like this fishing tourney event, so I went very quickly to grab that little achievement over there. Aviary tourney. Oh my god, this game is amazing. I know you had some, I don't know like what point in the game design you have troubles with yet. I don't think I haven't reached that point, but at the very least, I agree with you when you said that it's very similar to the Great Ace Attorney, because it kind of tries to, I guess, deconstruct some notions on the Ace Attorney series. Trying to be vague here, but I like what it's doing. It has sent me like into thinking mode for a couple of times by now, that I have like to put on the game and try to think what the hell just happened. And I like that on a game. I like a game that makes me think and makes me question like my preconceptions with the genre, I guess. I am guessing I am not headed for the good ending. But at the very least, I want to try to see where my choices lead me, and I pretty much stick with it, and maybe then do a second playthrough and try to get the good ending there.
Well, the nice thing
Picross,
is you don't even have to do a second playthrough. Like you can literally just rewind days. So like if you want to get it, you just have to go back to the third act, one of the days in the third act.
Ooh.
It's actually fairly easy to get the other endings. Like you would just have to replay parts of the third act basically. First and second act have no bearing on the ending.
Beautiful. That is gonna be easier than most of my visual novels playthroughs then. And also because Lord of the Nazarick has taken over my life. So every time I'm like watching a video, I'm just like playing Picross on the side. And I had trouble sleeping in the last couple of days. So I was like there at 3 a.m. playing Picross until I grew sleepy and then went to sleep again. Picross at 3 a.m. Good shit. And this might be a surprise to a lot of people. I'm playing Dark Souls, the Preferred Jedi edition, which I stole from my boyfriend's library on Steam. And so far, no deaths. Somehow. And
Good.
I decided to go, since I already watched parts of the game where my boyfriend went like with a sword user, I decided to go with something completely different. So I went with a sorcerer.
Ooh.
And oh my god, this game is amazing. And the design of the first part of the game up to the first boss is just chef kiss. Even if the controls are a little bit clunky, that hasn't really sent me to my deathbed yet. So I guess that's a good thing, that the controls hadn't like really fucked me over when playing the game. So far, if I do end up dying, that I guess it's gonna happen pretty soon. I feel like it's completely my fault and not like data controls or anything like that. It takes some getting used to because you attack with and block with the triggers, and I am not used to that at all. So that's like literally my worst enemy right now, like muscle memory on the controller. Still, very good game so far, so good. I really like how they're doing like the characters, and I know some of them like come back and you find them again and again, and they kind of have the character arcs to some extent. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am not looking forward to the deaths, but I'm prepared today here a lot. And the one, you kind of look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna
Alex.
say it's funny. Like the Dark Souls games, like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. So like I've played like Dark Souls, like the remastered one that you're playing, and I've played Bloodborne, and like I love those games, but like I never beat them because I don't know what it is. Like I get to a point where I'm just tired of it. Do you know what I mean? Like because like it's challenging, and like it really is like.
Yeah.
Like you have to, and this is I think why people love them so much, is like you have to really be like focused and paying attention when you're playing these games, and it requires like it just requires a lot of like real intense focus. And I get to a point where I'm like, I'm done, I don't want to focus on this anymore. And you just like, you know what I mean? Or like you beat this huge part and you're just like, oh, okay, done, oh my god, there's more. You know, and you're like that exhaustion. So it's happened to me both times where like I got really far into them and then I was like, I'm done. I don't know. I'll be interested to see if you get through all the way to the end.
Let's see, because I've seen my boyfriend play Dark Souls. He's currently playing Dark Souls 3, And even though that after you play like whatever Souls game, if you get into another one, it is easier to get into it. It's still there are times where it's like where you hit a wall and it doesn't seem like you're progressing at all. And when you finally are over that wall, you find a stronger enemy. It's like, whoop, here I go again.
Yep.
10 more attempts, 100 more attempts.
Exactly.
So, yep.
Exactly.
I'm very curious. Am I gonna be able to finish this? Only time will tell. Finally, the one that is not a surprise at all is Amnesia Crowd for the Vita. And that's the second fan disc, or the second kind of like fan what if after story game to Amnesia Memories. I am literally just started it just before recording, so I don't have much to say yet, but I know there's a lot of content. And I'm excited to finally see it. So, Alex, tell us everything about Megami Tensei 5. Or maybe not, don't spoil us.
No, I'm not spoiling
spoilers,
anything.
please.
I'm just still a little further. I'm literally only like over like between like an hour and 2 or so into this. You know what I mean? Like I'm still so short into it. But it's great. It's so I like the UI a lot. Like it's really snappy, which I know sounds like a weird thing to talk, but like it's just, you know, in a turn-based RPG, that's important, you know?
Yeah.
And it's clean, it's nice. I've been, you know, negotiating with some monsters, which has been really fun. One thing, the run mechanic is a little fucking unwieldy. Like it's one of those like click and you're just like, Wah! Sprinting, and then I'm like, okay, stop sprinting. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, no, whatever. No, Hebo, Naho, Nobino, whatever, fucking whatever.
You just threw some symbols at me. I don't know what that was.
I'm gonna call them the Nanaimo now. All right. So anyway, someone got mad at me, but you know the name of the who you are in it. Yeah, it just kind of like weird running. It's just weird, but really great. Like I said, pretty. And that's all I have to say about Shin Megami Tensei 5. You know what? Actually,
gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast. Yeah, honestly, it's a little bit like Sonic. Yeah, I got the blue hair going. Like it's like the Naruto run, like the arms behind them. They're like, it's kind of funny. But
got a Hee-Ho fast.
Got a Hee-Ho fast.
Oh my god, Rick.
I don't know what that. I don't.
That's all right. That's a little inside joke.
Okay, good. I'm like, this is an SMT joke. What I will say,
if you know, you know.
Yeah, and I don't.
If you know, you know.
But I will say this game to me feels like it gets you into it way faster than 4. Because I feel like I just was like almost like right away I'm like, oh, I'm in and I'm doing combat and stuff. So like I really appreciate that, because I think we all know JRPGs sometimes can be a little like, what is going on over here? These two are laughing silently.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, did Rick send something on Discord or something? Oh yeah, okay. Here we go. Yeah. All right, it's fine. So clearly I haven't played enough SMT. Anyway, so yeah, I jumped off of 4 pretty bad, right? But like in this one, I actually feel like I kind of understand what's going on a little more, and like actually like had like a better understanding of the monsters too, kind of right away. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So yeah, really good. I recommend people try it.
Nice.
I also started Evergate, which I'm not sure I'm going to keep playing right now. Not because it's like bad or anything. It's actually quite fun and interesting. It's just, I don't know if I'm in the mood at the moment for kind of like an intense platformer, but it's a really neat platformer. And you're going to look at it and think, oh, Ori, because it's got like the purple and like the little white spirit creature, but it's nothing like Ori. It's stage based, but the way it works is really interesting. So like basically you have kind of like 2 mechanics. Essentially you jump, but then you hold down like ZR or whatever to target something, and you have these like white sort of spirit walls, and there are little vessels along there that'll do different things. So like one of them, if you target it, this orange one, and you shoot through it, it's going to bounce you up into the air. And then when you get to this next area, you get ones that create platforms under you. And like the idea is that you want to collect a couple items in each level and destroy all the vessels to get to the end. And it's like a puzzle platformer, and it's really fucking cool, and it's really smart. And it really gives you that, like, it has a really quick, so when you die, it's just, you're immediately right back. It's just like, boom, okay, go. There's no loading or anything like that. You can hold down X if you screw up somewhere and you want to restart. So like it really doesn't waste your time at all, and like really rewards the idea of like getting everything that you need to. And like built into it, there are 3 kind of clear stages for each level, where it's like, first off, if you just get through to the end, that's totally fine. But if you break all the vessels, you get like a reward. If you collect these like spirit essences, there's usually 3 of them, you get a reward. And if you clear it in a certain amount of time, which is usually extremely fast, you get a reward as well. And by getting all of those, you unlock these little artifacts that will give you certain kind of boosts, but you can really only have like one selected at a time. And so you can kind of scroll through those boosts to decide like, what one do I need the most in this level right now? Like what will help me a little more? And you don't need any of them to complete the levels. Like all the levels are totally completable without any of those artifacts. It's just that they'll give you a slight advantage. So yeah, I really recommend Evergate for those who dig platformers, and particularly like platformers that make you kind of scratch your head a little bit and figure out like what's the optimal way to get through this. So yeah, that's Evergate. And Judgment, I have done nothing with, to be honest. I don't know if people feel this, but like, I'm at a point right now where I don't really want to sit down in front of my TV and play games. Like, I don't know why, but like sometimes I just get in that mood where I don't feel like playing console games for a while. And I just prefer like sitting down with something on my Switch and just kind of like maybe watching TV or something. And like, it's also because I think my partner has fortunately been like home more lately. Like often when I play console games, it's usually because, she's like so busy at work or something, and I'm like, well, whatever, I got the TV all to myself, might as well play these. Though she does like watch me play some of these games, especially Yakuza type games like this, because they're freaking hilarious. But I don't know, for some reason I just haven't been finding the motivation to play those. I've been wanting to burn through Switch games a little more lately, but that's the beauty of having so many different consoles and whatnot around, is that I can just decide based on my fancy what I want to be playing at the time, And that's where I'm at. Though I do think this time of year I'm always into handhelds and stuff, because like this is usually when I start doing GBA things and then doing Game Boy stuff, and like it's always this time of the year, and I don't know why. It just is. Maybe it's because it's, I don't know. Who knows? All right, that's it. Man, we're doing great today. We're just like, we're so speedy.
Don't tempt fate.
Jinx it.
Well, it doesn't matter if we jinx it now. Who cares? Because it doesn't matter. We got time. So this is our topic for this week is based off of a suggestion that R2D2 1999 gave us in the Discord, and we'll get to their question later, but basically I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of movie, TV, musical adaptations of video games, and just to talk a little bit about them and why it's so hard and whether there's any good ones or not, and what's coming on the horizon. Because at the moment, there are so many game adaptations coming out in the future, and some pretty big profile ones too, particularly in the TV space. I mean, I know where I live, Last of Us was filming last year. So there's some big shit on the way. But I think what I want to start with before we like jump into even like some of the best and whatnot, let's not kid ourselves. The record for adaptations of video games is pretty shit. Like when I looked at the best movie adaptations, when I looked at a list that Rotten Tomatoes had compiled, there were maybe, out of this like 40 something, 3 or 4 that were above Rotten. Like they were almost all in like the 20s and like up to the 50s, and like even Sonic only like squeaked by a little bit. And like not that the Rotten score is like means everything. A movie can be shit and still enjoyable, but like overall it seems like there have been less things that have knocked it out of the park than have squandered it entirely. And so I'm kind of curious like why we maybe think some have just, why it's so hard to make a good adaptation from a video game in particular.
I think for the same reason it's so hard to make such a good adaptation from anything. You have to respect the medium and the differences between them. Like if you think about Uncharted, for example, that's one where there's a film coming.
Yeah.
Uncharted works because you are playing the story. Like that genre like is successful in cinema, like in Indiana Jones, Lara Croft type thing. Lara Croft's an interesting one. I always forget that's a video game that became the movie afterwards. Anyway, the point is like
two series.
Like a globe-trotting adventure thing kind of works, but what makes Uncharted compelling as a franchise is that you get to do the spelunking and the shooting and the platforming and the everything else. On a macro level, that's all of the like. When you make that transition, you have to make it work in spite of taking away the core component of being that character, playing that game. Another good example is the Assassin's Creed film, I think, that came out, and Prince of Persia is another one that was around that same time, where what you essentially have done is made a generic action film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes them compelling as franchises is that you get to perform the action. When you take that aspect away, why should I watch that over another action film beyond brand recognition? That's the fundamental challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's sort of hard because some of those series, like, no offense, their storytelling has never been fucking
their strong
top
suit.
tier.
Their strong suit. The gameplay, and that's what you're losing. Exactly.
Though,
right?
What is interesting is that I think Uncharted 4's Uncharted strength actually is its storytelling over its gameplay. Maybe. I like its gameplay, but to give you an example, my partner had a goddamn blast watching me play Uncharted 4. Like, she was like, this is like I'm watching a TV show. You know what I mean? Like, she was like that for her was like, actually the excitement was watching it, not so much. And then I remember giving her the controller for a second. She was like, can I try for a second? And she was like, oh my God. I just like couldn't do it, right? She could do first person shooters and stuff, but like Nathan, it was like so unwieldy for her. So it is interesting. I actually think like that maybe, and same with The Last of Us, right? Like she loved watching me play Last of Us 1 and 2. And so, yeah, it's curious to me. Like, I actually think a little bit like I'm like, out of all of the games that could make potentially good series, Last of Us and Uncharted, I'm like, those have some of the best potential.
Yeah, granted.
Yeah, mostly because I think they're also borrowing so heavily from cinematic type stylings, you know, like they're already so close. But then that's also the danger, is that they're already so close that like, why make them into stuff except to appeal to those like my partner, say, who are never going to play the game? And but I don't know, I'm real fucking worried about that Uncharted movie. It looks kind of generic, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, and it looks like it borrows way too heavily from the source material to be interesting to anyone who would recognize that brand name. Like it looks like they've ripped the whole airplane thing wholesale from the game.
I will say I saw a new trailer that actually shows a little bit more of why that airplane thing is happening, and they're doing some shit that's crazy, that's different. I'm like, okay. But I do agree with you. I think a lot of it is going to be too similar, but there was something that don't want to spoil, but I was like, this will be fun.
We'll see, yeah.
Yeah, I think that other things that make this kind of adaptation like hard is because of the duration, especially when you're making a movie or when you're making a series. Is if the series is too short. For example, a standard adaptation for anime is like 13 episodes.
Yeah,
and that is not enough time to cover an entire plot of the game. And the ones that come the ones that come to mind that are like good adaptations are the ones that are 25 episodes, for example, such as Steins Gate, or to a lesser degree, Steins Gate Zero.
Did Steins Gate start as a game?
Yeah.
Steins Gate started as a visual novel.
Wow. Didn't fucking know that. Thought that was like a manga or something.
The PSP of all things.
No, the visual novel led to manga, anime, and also there are like not spin-off, but kind of like a complementary light novel material and stuff like that.
Well, that's interesting because I actually never played any of the games. I watched the anime and loved it. That's what got me into Steins Gate. I just thought it was an anime first, so like that's why I got into it.
That was Danganronpa for me, funnily enough. I did exactly the same thing with Danganronpa, yeah.
Yeah, with the difference that Steins Gate is like such a good adaptation that if you don't have like the option to play the game, the anime is already a stellar piece of media.
Yeah, the anime was great.
When I think Danganronpa loses a lot of the, I guess, the identity of the game that gives it like the something that makes the game so like better or good or like more invested, I guess.
It was still
mainly because
good.
of the mixtations.
It was still good, but you're right. You lose the deductive part of it, and you lose the of like piecing it all together. But it's still really good. Like as an adaptation, it's really good. It got me to play the game, so you know.
It's like the Phoenix.
Yeah, it's more like
anime.
a piece of marketing sometimes. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say it's like the Phoenix Wright anime. Like I love that anime. It's a little rough around the edges. I love it, but like it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a substitute for playing that game. But at the same time, it's like as someone who loves the game, it was super fun to go and watch it.
I agree. Yeah.
But I have to say, like, Japan, I think, is a different boat because even they've got like the Phoenix Wright fucking theatrical productions, which are amazing and just totally different. But then like I guess really
musicals
and the musicals, yeah, like you were talking about, what was it, Code Realize?
Yeah, Code Realize, and that was a very interesting case because the first half of the musical was really, really good, and also like sticking to the source material. To a point I didn't believe it was possible in such like a short-ish production because it's still like 2 hours and something, but it's still a lot shorter than the 13 hours that takes you to go through a route of the game. But they did a fantastic job on that first half, and then they kind of went like weird in the second half, but it still was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
By the way, that one was streamed like for over a couple of weeks for free, and right now you can either stream it from Amazon Japan or buy the Blu-ray. Because these things are sold into Blu-rays in Japan.
And it's neat because maybe just Japan, like, again, I feel like we always have to really separate these things because Japan is such a different, it's just so different, right? And like culturally they have an anime industry, and it seems they have a theatrical industry too, I guess, which like I don't, which is true. They've always had a really deep theatrical practice in many different forms, kabuki, buto, like there's all sorts of whatnot that goes back ages and ages. And so like the idea of them having these modern adaptations of video games, but you think too, like video games are so much more, I think, culturally enmeshed in a different sort of form than they are in the West. You know, we're getting esports and stuff like that in the West, but I feel like in the West it's more like, it's almost more like the, I don't know, this is a generalization, so we can't really say much for sure, but like the competitive or like the gameplay aspect of it seems to be more like pushed here in some ways. Mainstream, I guess. Like when I think about like the people I know who aren't like really obsessed with the hobby, and when they think of video games, and they're like, oh, you know, like Madden and COD, right? I'm like,
FIFA, yeah,
you know what I mean, right? Like that sort of idea. But then Japan is like, well, that's not really, like, obviously it all exists in its own, but like they'll make a fucking theatrical production called Realize, right? Like, you know, like, like that would have never happened here. But then in the West, you've got Hollywood, right? And I think maybe that's where we're seeing a difference, where like you're talking about these big action flicks, and like a lot of those action flicks that come out fucking suck just in general. Like, and then you put video game properties like fucking Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah, that was a thing. Christ,
and
I forgot that.
Right, I forgot about that.
That's one of the better ones in terms of ratings and reviews. That's what's fucking insane. Because didn't that
have like Resident Evil Mila, whatever her name is, out of?
It did. Well, it's the same guy. It's the same guy who directed it because they're married.
Of course it is. It's her husband. Yeah.
It's
so
dumb. Something Anderson, right? I can't remember fucking what's his name. Paul W.S. Anderson. He did like the Resident Evil movies, and he did the fucking Monster Hunter movies. And listen, I think actually Capcom was probably pleased with it anyway, because they fucking clearly like, do you know what I mean? Like I feel a little bit like they're just like, whatever, we just want a movie that makes money and increases brand recognition. You know what I mean? Like they're not like, I don't give a shit.
I clearly did a poor job because I didn't know the movie existed.
True. Speaking of one of the better movies, Detective Pikachu, because it's not that it adapted the source material like perfectly, but it took the idea, like the core of the idea, and made something out of it. And I think that approach was better for this particular case, because it gives something to watch to the people that already played the game, but also it's more appealing to the general fan base of Pokemon.
So like I think we've been
And it also has a lot of Easter eggs.
Yes.
Like a lot of Easter eggs.
And some horrific Pokemon in the best way possible. Like those CG Pokemon, I was like, oh yeah, never mind. I'm glad Pokemon don't exist. You're like, oh.
Right?
But actually, I guess we've been dancing around this a little bit anyway. But we might as well get into some that we think are good. And I think your point, what you're saying, is like, you know, something that like takes the source material and tells an interesting story with it, but also doesn't try to do the fucking gameplay thing, because that's what I think really fucking goes wrong in a lot of these adaptations, is that they're like, oh, it's a video game. Like I'm thinking of the Doom adaptation, or they're like, let's do a part where it's in first person, and you're like, bruh, fucking don't do this. Like
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? They're like, people need to know that it's a video game, and you're like, they don't fucking need to know that. But then you get something like Arcane, which I watched recently, and is fucking stunning. Like this visually is one of the most impressive animated things I've ever seen. It is absolutely gorgeous. Storytelling wise, really goddamn good. Those first 3 episodes are like a fucking masterpiece, and it keeps going, and it's great. And I knew nothing about this world or these people, right? It's like League of Legends. I don't know who the fuck Jinx is. Like all these people, I was like, I don't know who they are. And like I kind of slightly recognized one of them at one point. I was like, oh, well, maybe I've seen like a fucking JPEG of this chick at some point, but I'm like, I don't know who you are. And it didn't matter. I got fully into it. They explained it well. And now I'm like curious about this world. I'm not going to go play League again because it's been years and I'm good. But maybe I'll play some of their other ones like Ruined King and stuff like that, right? Like it like actually, it just worked. Like it didn't, at no point when you're watching that do you realize that this is based off of a video game. There's nothing to indicate that.
Yeah. Might be a cop-out. I felt that about The Witcher as well. The Netflix adaptation of that, admittedly game adaptation of a book adaptation of arguably a plagiarized. Anyway, but yeah,
Right.
that series stood on its own and told a really compelling story that didn't require knowledge of the game, but definitely had like benefits for those who knew that story, some of those characters and things like that. The animated prequel, especially, like even having only just played a little bit of the first game, seeing a young Vesemir and you know, some of the characters that move into those slots, like you could definitely enjoy that without knowing who Vesemir is outside of that show, but it gives it extra flavor. And I think that's the dream in an adaptation like this. If you want to try and appeal to the broadest church, you have to make it accessible, but with, you know, the odd nod and thing that's going to sort of go, and for someone who's already seen it.
Yeah, it's such a weird example too, right? Because that television show is really solely adapting the books. Like that first season was fully from the books, and same with the second and everything. But like you said, it's popular because of the game, right? So like it is a weird transmedia kind of example where it's like pulling from everything, and you're like, huh. But Castlevania is another one that straight just incredible. And again, it's because it has nothing to do with the fucking, there's some characters who are in the games a little bit, but it's not adapting the games. It's just creating a Castlevania story and like doing like, and that's the best part of it. There's no goddamn, I mean, some things are set in castles, like Dracula's castle is clearly a thing, but it's not like they're trying to do like a, okay, he goes over here and find this thing which unlocks that. You know what I mean? Like they're not doing the Castlevania gameplay as the storytelling elements. They're just taking Castlevania and then deciding how would this make a good television series? How would this make a good narrative, right? And like yeah, that to me is where it gets the best. It's like, what are the characters that they have? How do we expand them, create them? And like it's faithful, but it's not bowing to tradition, you know, which I think some of these adaptations do, is that they get stuck in this concept of like, what has to be in this to make this actually effective, you know? Which, oh wait, I think Paula's like collecting a few other things for some comments, so we're going to pass it over to her in a second. But one other one I'll say that is incredible, that's a movie, is Werewolves Within, which I don't know if anyone's seen. This is by my
haven't even heard of.
yeah, by my accounts, this is the best video game adaptation film I've ever seen. It's great. You know what? It's an adaptation of a fucking Ubisoft VR game, which like,
Oh my god.
yes.
How do you even? How?
I know. I think it's about like a game where you're like trying to figure out who's the werewolf kind of thing, and it's like one of those questioning games. And the movie is fucking hilarious. It's by one of those one of the college humor old college humor dudes. He directed it, and it's super funny because they're basically in this like small town, and like someone's a werewolf, and all these people are dying, and they have to like figure out who the werewolf is, and it's just like really funny. Like a cohesive, fun narrative that's just really enjoyable. And I was like, and this thing's based off of a freaking VR game. Okay. And so like part of me kind of wants to see more like just random games getting adapted because it clearly works.
No, I'm still like baffled of how they made that work. But it kind of works because it's pretty much a game of werewolves, and there's like a lot of versions across like even board games.
And you can tell from the trailer, which I've just looked at, like you can tell it's pitched as a comedy, and I can very much see that working.
Oh, it's a big comedy. It's very funny.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyone else thoughts, Paula? I think you wrote down a couple things.
Oh, yeah. And I have like, I can't even because there's so much anime, and I think most of the time they funked it. They fucked it up. And especially like with Atomic games because they only give them like 13 episodes or so. But one of the good ones is Hakuoki Shinsengumi Kitan that adapts like the Hakuoki original game for the PS2, I think. And one that is an interesting case because it is a game that it didn't come out here is Hakuoki Reime Doku, that is actually a prequel to the Hakuoki games and has like a different protagonist, and it's just a regular visual novel. And the game, I think, did the anime I think did a good job with that one. Plus, it gave most of the fan base that is in Japanese a way to experience that particular piece of media. And yeah, and generally, what I think about the adaptations is either it has to be like different to the source material, it either has to be like something based on the universe, but maybe like a complementary piece of work. Like over a stream, we were talking about like a fan chantan, how it would be like very funny to have a particular period inside of the game that didn't have like anything of like story importance happening, to have it like to be made into an anime, like kind of a spin-off of how Kotone and the regulars were like setting up the cafe and all the antics they will probably get into because of how special, I guess, or how much of a gremlin everyone in that cafe is. And then you have like the direct adaptations that have to be made like very carefully because you don't want to trace the material like one-to-one. You kind of want it to be an adaptation without being a complete adaptation because usually people don't want to replace the source material. What happens more often than not is they want to advertise the source material. And I guess from that advertisement point is that a lot of the problems are that come with adaptation.
That's pretty fair.
You're making me think actually, like, there's one big one that I feel like we missed. Digimon. Fucking Digimon is just an adaptation of the virtual pet that they made at the beginning because it started as a Tamagotchi, right?
They still sell those. I was in a shop the other day and they started doing
or...
reprints. They sell them new now. No, it's a thing.
Yeah, it didn't start as a card game. No, it started as a Tamagotchi for boys. That was the whole concept. It was like these little monsters.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then it turned into this anime that was like fucking way better than it had any goddamn right to be, right? Like it's when you think about that, you're like, oh, so they created this television show about a virtual world and about the interconnection of the internet and like these young people trying to explore that out of a fucking Tamagotchi. Like what?
And The funniest thing is that later when they introduced like the card game, and you could like, and then they got like Digimon Tamers. I think that was the third Digimon anime,
Yeah, who knows?
and that one used the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yeah.
Actually, and also the card game is still going strong, and I don't think there's an application for that, like in Pokemon. I don't know.
You don't think there's a what in Pokemon for that?
Oh no, like in Pokemon, they have the online TCG thing that
Yes,
is
yeah.
pretty much like, yeah. But I don't think Digimon has that.
I don't think
Not that
Digimon's
I know.
card game portion ever really took off as intensely as like Pokemon and stuff. Like they kind of seem to have relegated to the games and the
Oh,
anime.
you
But
don't know what's going on then, because lately, like the latest one, has been picking up like real good, and actually,
but what's
like,
real good?
actually one of our guests, Aaron, is a big fan of the Digimon card game,
Mhm.
and oh my god, he explained me the rules, and suddenly there's a lot of people that I know that use like, I guess, like not official software to play the card game, but it seems it is really fun.
But see, this is what I mean though, like where it's like I know there are fans of it, obviously, like of course.
Mhm.
But I just think in terms of like the grand scheme of like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, like you know what I mean? Like I think the card game for Digimon at least is probably on the lower tier. That's still very
But yeah,
popular, I'm sure. Yeah.
it's probably not as well known as the other two either.
Yeah. Yeah. But I loved Digimon cards when I was younger. They were dope looking, man. They had like those cool monsters on it. It was cool shit. I loved it. Anyway, sorry. But I think there was like a new, like they did like a new rollout of Digimon cards last in like 2020 or something like
Yeah.
that. I think bad timing, but whatever. you know. Um, anyway, so that do anything we want to add on like some of our favorites or whatnot? We good on
I
that
would
stuff?
love to jump really quickly into Ratchet and Clank, not because it's my
Oh,
favorite,
sure,
just
yeah.
because I think it's another interesting inflection. Because
Mhm.
this is a game that spawned a movie, and the movie basically informed the remake of the original game.
Yeah.
Because said remake was essentially structured around taking clips from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of ruined the game as a result because it had to try and adhere to these clips that didn't really work in the context of what the game was doing. And it arguably ruined the movie because the movie was trying to fit in like everything from all of the games at the same time. Like you had Drek and Nefarious and a few other enemies, and it was just a whole mess dumpster fire situation. It's not like it's been farmed out to an Anderson and wife co. Like some of the Capcom stuff. It's like it's Sony's in-house movie department
Yeah.
that did this. Sony owned the IP. Like if it was ever to have a good shot at it, this was it, and they still managed to sort of drop the ball.
Yeah.
I think they hired like big talent that sort of phoned it in as well. Like I think Sly Stallone and Ray Liotta and a few other people who they would have paid too much money to even get out of bed, sort of thing. And your budget's wasted on that in an animated kids cartoon about a video game. That you don't need an expensive aging former star to like lend their voice to it. You just need someone who can do a good voice.
Well, and I think they
But,
learned
yeah.
their lesson, like because like with Rift Apart and whatnot, it seems like that has been an excellent game, and it's just kind of standing on its
Yes.
own merits, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because, well, Tsugihime doesn't have an anime adaptation. We don't talk about that here. But the Fate series originated also from a visual novel, and they've been pretty much adapting like different routes of the visual novel, and that somehow it seems that works pretty well. Though it's very difficult. I mean, expensive, I guess, to do something like that. But I felt like I had to do a little shout out to that because at the very least, like it seems they did something good with that, with dedicating a full run anime to each of the routes, and you get a more flesh out story. It's not gonna happen with everything, but it can work. And well, Steins Gates and Steins Gates here has to be like the pinnacle of adaptations for me. And I'm pretty sad that the other science adventure games like Chaos Head and Robotic Notes didn't get as good as a treatment as Steins Gate. But still, Chaos Head not good at all. Robotic Notes, I guess, good enough. And Steins Gate is the pinnacle adaptation there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really have more to say on
That's
the topic besides like listing more examples, which are probably all anime. But yeah.
I figured. That's all right. Well, when I was just thinking like quickly when it comes to the Horizon, like I think right now we have another push of, and there's always been a lot of series that are kind of like sitting on the back burner that people are saying adaptations are coming and whatnot. But it seems as though there is a renewed push, particularly on the Sony front. But Ubisoft's trying to do it too.
Yeah.
Fucking Ubisoft, man. Just, oh, Jesus. You can so tell that they're like, we don't really care about artistry. We just want to make money. And you're like, they're just trying to milk the fuck out of their franchises so bad. But anyway, like, we've got Last of Us coming. We have Halo coming, which looks rough, but we'll see. I'm like,
sad.
Mass Effect is rumored. It's been rumored for so long, but there's been like pushed like newly renewed rumors of some kind of TV thing coming with it. Who fucking knows? I think there was like I don't know. Anyway, but there's a Fallout one confirmed coming, which could be good. Like I'm like that. There's a lot of stuff you could do in that world. Like you wouldn't have to adapt any of the games. You could just create that. But like, aren't we a little done with post-apocalypse? Like we got Last of Us coming, and now we got. I'm like, I think we're good.
Yep.
And like I said, Ubisoft is doing like Splinter Cell. They're doing Far Cry and like Assassin's Creed and shit. Like they got so many coming. But the only one that I think is going to be fucking great is the Cuphead show. It looks awesome. It's just through the Cuphead animation, and I'm like, that's great. Like that will be fun.
It's hard to imagine that not sticking the landing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And speaking of not sticking the landing, the Mario movie, well, let's just see what happens.
Yep.
Listen, if Chris Pratt's voicing Mario, I'm there.
You're like, I'm fucking down.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just watching from very far away that particular adaptation. I am also cautiously optimistic about Color Malice anime adaptation because, well, that was announced a couple of years ago and we haven't heard anything about that. And if it gets the 13 episode treatment, I doubt it's gonna be good.
COVID probably rocked those like animation studios.
Yeah, COVID.
I mean, those animation studios in Japan are already overworked anyway, but
COVID was like the straw that broke the camel's back over there.
Yeah. Well, why don't we move along then and talk about R2D2 1999's question. So they ask, what's a gaming series that you think would make a good movie or TV show? So we've talked about some of them now. So now let's take a look at what we think would actually be pretty good. And I'm not going to lie, this was a hard one for me. Because a lot of them already have like adaptations, especially like some of the ones that I think are very narrative are often Japanese. And I'm like, well, they already got freaking adaptations.
You know what? I have one.
What? 13 Sentinels, you think?
I have one. Mm-hmm. No, I have one idea that could actually work.
Okay.
And that is Shin Tensei, because they could make an entirely new post-apocalyptic thing or an entirely new story and somehow make it work. Because of, and it has to be a series, because a movie I don't think is enough to showcase how rich the world in these games can actually be.
Let me throw a recent one out there. Ghost Trick, I think, would make an excellent show.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like any of the animated thing, you know what? Okay, this is hard though, because like one of the first ones that came to my mind is also one though that I feel like, I don't know if it like counts, because like I was thinking of Knights of the Old Republic, and like that would be a fucking incredible TV series, like especially in the Mandalorian style. Like forget the goddamn remake, just make a goddamn live action of that game. But then it's also tough because those games are basically based off of a movie series anyway. But like, you know, I just think like, because it's such a rich time period that they investigate in there, and like, oh, it'd be such a good TV show. It would be so good. You could even do it based on the planets that they visit. Like each freaking episode could be a different planet, and like, it would be so good. But
I think a lot of Zelda franchise, not a lot of Zelda, Christ, let me try again. A lot of Nintendo franchises would lend themselves well, in the sense that there's enough of an identity in those characters, but there's also enough free space to sort of build your own ideas into those worlds. Whether it's a Zelda, whether it's a Donkey Kong, whether it's a Metroid, whether it's a fucking Splatoon, I could see that kind of work.
Oh my god. I just remember the Zelda TV show. That was a meme, a walking meme.
CDI, baby.
Oh, that was so rough. Actually,
so hungry I could eat a nut truck. No, that was the CDI games.
What's the difference?
The animation is so bad on that because they had no budget. They literally like subcontracted it out twice, and you end up with like some people in like Eastern Europe who are like making next to nothing and on a time frame that no one could do anything good with.
Man, do you know what I think would make a hilariously awesome TV show? Are the Trauma Center games. Like if you turn that into like, do you know what I mean? Like a procedural fucking hospital television show, like an anime about like all like this crazy disease. Like I think of Trauma Team, and it had like one big disease, but there's also all these cases. I think it could be really funny, like especially if you don't take it too seriously, but you give it in that like I don't know, like think how popular Grey's Anatomy or like House is, right? If you do it like that, but like with that like world, I think it'd be pretty fun. Or just Bayonetta. Just give me a Bayonetta series. I'd dig that.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Actually, yeah.
That'd be dope. Make it animated though. I don't want none of this fucking real shit. That'd be so weird. It wouldn't work good. It'd be like when they try to do like have you ever seen Devil May Cry when they show, because they do like they'll do some like motion capture stuff, and so like they show some of like what the mocap looked like, and it's very funny. It's like those games are so stylized that like when you try to put it on a real person, it's like when they made the Dragon Ball Z movie. Remember that? It's fucking horrific because that shit doesn't work in live action. It just does not.
Now you brought up like the Devil May Cry games. One of the things that it isn't an adaptation at all. It's more like Capcom had like some videos of how they. Not how they made the scenes, but how they make like the mock-ups of the scenes.
Yeah.
Those are hilarious. I love them so much.
Yeah, and they're really sweet. Like, it's fine. Obviously, that wouldn't be what a real show would look like, but yeah, it's great. Actually, okay, wait, last one. A David Lynch directed Control series with, like, Alan Wake mixed in and shit. Be fucking incredible.
Shut up and take my money.
I know, right? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Take my money.
Oh, you're onto something, it seems.
I want it.
Yeah, all right. I guess we'll leave that there.
Well, hey, you guys at home, what would you love to see made into a movie or a TV show? Why don't you let us know in the comment box just down below the like button you're going to go and smash anyway.
Yeah. And why don't we move on to, we got a nice, and this is a clippy episode today. Look at us going. Let's move on to How Long to Beat the Game. Paula, tell us, what are we playing for? Well,
I am trying to find the search options. Oh, I found it.
What's the
amateur
game
hour over here? There we go. Go on.
Yeah, let me go.
Yeah, what is
the
this, your
hidden
first rodeo?
stats, randomized. What?
Nothing.
We've already done, what, 60 episodes?
Oh, it's Leisure Suit Larry, Loves for Sale.
Oh, okay. Leisure Suit Larry. Classic. You said Loves
Yeah,
for
I'm
Sale.
just gonna go ahead and send you a screenshot of the thing so you know
Which one?
which one.
There are a lot of
I
Leisure
feel
Suit
like
Larry
I don't
games,
need to know which one.
aren't there?
Yeah,
no,
this
that's
one
irrelevant.
is one of the older ones.
What's one of the older, like one of the PC ones?
Yeah, because I know there's like a new wave of Leisure Suit Larry.
God, the
being
titles are
released.
so good. Leisure Suit Larry, Wet Dreams Don't Dry. Like, my God. Just like,
Yep.
oh, so bad. So sorry, you said this is the one like Leisure Suit Larry Love for Sale. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Love for
Oh, it's
Sale.
the 7th one.
This is the 7th? Jesus. I think I know what I'm going for here. I think I'm doing another 5, 6, 70. You going 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 9?
Yeah, I'm going 8, 8, 9. I'm just swinging for the fences.
I'm gonna go 6, 7, 8. I don't think it's any longer than that. I don't think.
I'm tempted to go with a 555, but I don't think that's it.
Because I can't imagine these are super long. Like they churned these out like fucking crazy. Like it was just like let me hold on. Leisure Suit Larry. Were these games any good? Like, has anyone ever played them?
I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna go with 5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7. All right. Well, why don't you tell us what we got here?
So main story 5.5 hours, main
Okay.
plus extras 6 hours, and completion is 7.5 hours.
Look
Pop,
at
pop,
that.
pop.
I think we all got them, eh?
5 points across the board.
Yep.
Which means 148 for Alex, 143 for Rick, and 128 for Paula. Oh, look at us go.
Yeah.
Look at us going.
Who would have thought? Not me.
We kind of need to have like a crazy game, so
We've been getting some low balls lately, yeah.
Yep.
Like we've had a lot of the 5-ish hour-ish ones. I don't know. Look, that's just what happens, right? When we get a guest on again, it'll be a crazy difficult game.
Yep. And I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna be mad that I said, "Oh, we need a crazy game," because that's gonna be the one I'm not gonna get.
Well then, I think that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. A more compact episode than last week for sure. My God. So we'll see you all next week, folks. Toodaloo.
See you then.
Bye.